know about you, but man, this morning was just a glorious time of worship, wasn't it? And it's always good for me. I love traveling to other countries and experiencing worship in other countries than the United States. It helps remind me that God so loved all over the world, right? And it's neat to see the Spirit of God moving in people's lives through all cultures, all countries. I have, my heart is deeply connected to Cuba, which is of course an island just 90 miles off the coast of Florida in the United States, and of course under communist rule. And so most people would think that the people in Cuba must feel oppressed and must live oppressive lives because they have what we would call oppressive government there. And while they have food rationing, income rationing, their lives aren't rich from the outside looking in. But when you get to know these people who have found true hope in their lives, that hope becomes a peace that passes all human understanding. And I tell people all the time, you go to Cuba, and they ask me why I go there. I say, because I want to hang out with the richest people in the world. Because in the midst of their circumstances, they have great joy. There's just nothing like that, folks. And so one of the things that I want to remind you, and of course what this morning constantly reminds me of, is that you have been graced and gifted with the opportunity to work with people, work in the lives of people, sow into the lives of people. And one of the things that I've always read is to my hierarchy over the many, many years is a piece that was written by a pastor friend of mine years and years ago. And I've really adopted it as kind of a theme in my life and a theme in our hierarchy that we should never forget. And it's called the spirit of investment. The power of investing in people. I just want to read this to you and hope that it makes sense. Because this is truly what you're all about. And this is the reason, this should be the catalyst, this should be the reason why you set goals and want to not just become a goal setter, but a goal hitter. And so this should motivate you. This should be your why, your compelling reason why you do it. So listen to this and see if this makes sense. It's called investing in people, the power of an investment. It is a point of origin for all economic activity. It determines growth or stagnation. Where the spirit of investment is alive, there is enthusiasm and momentum. Each new opportunity represents an exciting journey. This spirit has led man to the discovery of new worlds. It has built strong cities, and great structures stand carved against the horizon in silent tribute to man's ability to dream. Yet ruins attest to man's inability to secure the future. Even in the midst of his boldest investments, steel rusts, rocks crumble, and the monuments which briefly appeared disguised as reality give way to the dust of illusions. But this is the power of investing in a person. An investment in a person is an investment in the most powerful capital of all, human capital. This is the power which can sweep across the ruins of a country and breathe new life into homes. The prospect of men and women made new. This is the return on an investment in a person. And this return lasts forever. You see, one of the great things you need to understand and remind yourself is that when you're involved in a people business, when you have been put on a platform of leadership, then you are truly investing in the lives of people. And it's not just to get a promotion. It's not just to build your team. It's not just to grow your business. But by the very act of investing in a person's life, you're investing in the one thing that has eternal consequences. Because as I came to discover probably about 25, maybe over 35 years ago now, Marcy and I had our first trip to Rome. And I'll never forget, going to and see the ruins of what was once the greatest and most powerful empire in the world. And of course, here you hear stories and you read history about then the British Empire and how it was at one point the most powerful empire in the world. And then I'm constantly reminded, now living in America, that, we're the most powerful and influential, quote, empire in the world. And we've just been around for maybe a few hundred years, and we're already puffing our chest out to believe that. Can you imagine living in the Roman Empire, where they really were the most powerful empire in the world, not for a few hundred years, but for over 1,000 years? And can you imagine, going to one of the citizens in Rome during their time, and they say, and you go, one day there's going to be people touring here, and they're going to be like standing on the rubble of all these buildings and all this great empire. I mean, there's really going to be like a tour guide, and they're going to be talking about what was once the Roman Empire, and we'll be studying all the ruins and looking at all the ruins and the rubble. And they would have gone, "You're crazy. Are you nuts? You've lost your mind." But yet there we were. Now here's what I'm telling you. Never let ourselves be so arrogant to think that that couldn't happen here, couldn't happen in the United States, right? Because sooner or later, this world that we live in is in a fallen state, and it will be done away with and recreated anew the way it was intended to be in the first place. And isn't it great to know that the one thing that's going to survive all of that is the hearts and souls of men and women connected to God their Father? Yeah. Isn't that a great thing? And so that's what you get a chance to do on a daily basis, is invest in the lives of people. So that's why this whole lesson on recruiting and training and encouraging and building people is so critical. That's what must motivate your goals. That's what must motivate your heart. And if you're motivated and have the right why, then you can bust down walls to find out how, right? So let's talk a little bit about just the hope that we have. Hope is a very, very powerful thing. Yeah. I mean, real, true, authentic hope. Now, hope can take on different connotations, right? There's one form of hope that's kind of a wishing hope, right? Well, I hope this works. Well, I hope I can do it. Well, I hope this guy is what he says he is. I hope I can get a promotion. I hope. That's what's called a wishing hope. I wish, right? I wish this would happen. I hope that would happen. I wish that would happen, right? I'm not talking about that kind of hope. I'm talking about another form of hope. It is a knowing hope. This deep hope that you know that you know that you know. My favorite definition of this type of hope is an expectation that's based on truth. Whew, that's the kind of hope that we want to deal in, right? And I told you that in this room now, the reason why that last night, or was it last night? I've been going so long. Was it last night that we had the, yeah, okay. What day is it? So anyway, but last night when you had all this stage full of executive vice presidents, when Jeff was handing out the charter members of the 100,000-pound ring, right? See, what you should take heart in is this. That represents hope to you. You are now surrounded by the evidence that this works. That Genesis is not just, I wish, I'm Genistar. though, is not something that you wish something. This is a place you know it can happen if you're willing to put in the work, right? I mean, you know it because, see, you are surrounded by the evidence, and there's evidence all around you. Now, the only thing you got to do is not a matter any longer whether Genistar works. It's a matter of if you're going to work it, and that's what you're going to deal in, right? Okay. Now, listen. The Apostle Paul, he was writing. He wrote a lot of letters to a lot of early followers of Jesus, and they used to huddle up in homes, all over the Mediterranean area. That was the beginning of the church, and in Rome, particularly, he wrote this letter to all the Roman Christians, and boy, the Christians in Rome, don't you know the story, right? I mean, when they decided to follow Jesus, it wasn't just, oh, fun, this is going to be great, I can hang around with a bunch of cool people every Sunday and listen to great music. No. When they decided, like many other believers around the world decide to do that, that means that is a life-changing and a life-threatening commitment. That they knew that they could be hunted down, that they could be thrown into the Colosseum, right? That's the kind of decision they had to make, right? Speaking of having an easy decision or making the right decision, you had to think about that one. And so Paul wrote to them, though, in the midst of all that persecution and everything, and this is what he says to them. This is amazing. He goes, rejoice in your sufferings. Well, Paul, I mean, you want me to, rejoice in all this? Yeah. But how can I rejoice? Now, see, when we hear that, it's hard to say, well, my suffering, yes, I mean, I'm suffering because I can't, I'm trying to figure out how I can, make my MasterCard bill, pay for that, and, put gas in my car. And we think that might be suffering over here, right? Their idea of suffering was quite at a different level. You agree with me?
Yeah.
And so when Paul said to rejoice in your suffering, man, that was like out there. He was calling them to do something that was very strange in the midst of their suffering. He says, here's why you should do it. He says, rejoice in your suffering. I mean, how do I do that, Paul? He says, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. And perseverance produces character. And character produces hope. And this hope will never, ever, ever disappoint. And so you want to have that kind of hope in your life. Now, obviously, he's talking about the hope that you find in Christ, but even the hope, if you have an expectation, this expectation that you have is finally based on a truth, then that's the difference between real hope and hype, isn't it? And so now you can stand firm on this and know that you're surrounded by the evidence. It's all around me. I know that Genistar works, so I'll work Genistar, and so now we got to get together, and we got to get at it. So what I'd like to talk to you about more now is how do you really work through this whole concept of recruiting? You told me, how to overcome the fear of it. You taught me how, to establish a recruiting mentality, if you would. You even taught me yesterday, Randy, why I should do it. But can you tell me a little bit about how? And then kind of help me on what I need to do to set some goals to make sure I can achieve all the things I've learned this week. Is that a deal? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the how. Okay, I think that, first of all, you're guided by that knowing hope that this works finally, right? So all you got to do is, this works. We know it works. I just need to work it. That's my challenge. And so you got to get good, first of all, on how to recruit kids. You have to get good at telling the story. You got to be really great storytellers, okay? And I mean true storytellers, not telling the story, telling the story. But you got to get great at it. Now, there's 3 stories you need to master if you want to get recruiting going, because really, it shouldn't be so difficult for you. If you really want to understand it, recruiting is nothing but winning people over to your ideas and your heart. That's really what it is winning people over to you. That's why that this business is nothing but a personal development program with a high compensation package attached to the tail end. The more you work on you, then the more attractive you will be to others, and they will want to follow your ideas in your heart. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why we're working on this. And so there's 3 stories you must master. You must master your personal story. You must master the story of your upline, your trainer, right? And the story of Genistar. Those 3 stories you have to master, because all by doing that, they establish credibility in this, to this person that's listening to you. So get good at your story. Now here's what I mean. As I try to factor in what I call the what, why, where. What, why, where to your story, okay? But you say, Randy, you don't know me. My story, I heard you talk about it the other day in the breakout, it's kind of you got kind of a cool story, okay? Now let me just help you with something. My story is my story, okay? Everyone's got a story, and you must get good at sharing that story, whether you like it or not. You've got one, and that's how you relate to them. You're trying to win them over to who? To you. Because what they're doing right now, when they see you face to face, whether they've been referred to you by a trainee or it's a personal recruiting interview that you have on your own, man, what they're really asking is, can I hang with this person? Can I follow this person? Can I be coachable with this person? Is this person a person of credibility? That's really what they're asking. They're not hearing your presentation. They're checking you out.
Yeah.
And so that's why, too, I told you the other day that I never try to recruit people to come to work for me. All I did is I wanted to be the conduit. I wanted to be the agent. I wanted to be the broker, if you would, between them and the opportunity. I just wanted to introduce them to my trainer because he was the expert, not me. They would listen to me if they liked me, and if they liked my story, they could relate to that, and then they would be compelled to go talk to the person who's doing the training, right? And so I got really good at telling my story. What, why, where? What you did before you decided to come to work with Genistar, what that was, very important. Why you decided to do it, and where you plan on going with it. Does that make sense? What, why, where? When they go, Randy, I'm still part-time. That's fantastic. What you are doing now, why you decided to start part-time with Genistar, and where you plan on taking it. Now, throughout that, you must sell your commitment to the task. Is that right? Don't you ever make a decision, because I'm just telling you, Jeff's trying to get me to come back next year, okay? And I don't know yet. I have to check it out and blah, blah, blah. But if I find out y'all didn't hear what I said this time, I might not come back. I'm only going to come back if you do what I tell you to do. Is that a deal?
Yeah!
Okay. So with that said then, you can't be part-timers. You can't be out there going, hey man, you need to come to a meeting. This is something I'm checking out right now. Or I'm trying this out. Or I'm thinking about it. They will never follow that. They're not going to follow somebody who's checking it out. They're not going to follow somebody who's thinking about it. They're not going to follow somebody who's going to give it a try to see what happens. They won't follow you. They're going to follow your commitment.
Yep.
And so you better be committed to this. Whether you're part-time or full-time, it doesn't matter. You can be just as committed part-time as full-time what your goals are, right? But part-timers, in my mind, okay, you're not part-time, you're just in transition. You're just in transition. You're being trained part-time so you can transition from that job to having a career with Genistar.
Yep.
That's how you should posture yourself. Because people, that speaks loudly to them.
Yeah.
That means they know you're serious. And if you're serious, then this must be a serious endeavor. So, get good at your personal story. What you're doing now, or what you did. Why you made that decision. See, and everybody has their different reasons why. isn't it? That's why my story is not relevant. Your story is relevant. You know why? Why I did it, okay? But why did you make the commitment? Why did you start? And your why is relevant, okay? It doesn't mean the same as their why, but at least they can relate to you. And then where do you plan on taking it? I plan on opening up an office as one of their executive vice presidents, and I plan on opening 10 other offices out here too. I don't know if it's for you or not, but you need to interview the guy who's doing all the training. Boom. Okay? But you got to have your vision. That's where. Is that a deal? Then you got to know your upline's story too, because if he's the one that's going to help you with the 1-2 punch, right? We'll talk about that in a minute. Then you need to get good at selling your upline, whether you like them or not. Get to do it, get to like them, because you got to be promoting them like crazy, because the more you promote them, the more credibility they can give you. Does that make sense? Okay? And then, of course, Genistar. You got to get great at the Genistar story, too. You get those 3 stories down, and you can really understand how recruiting then works. And then, you got to get great at giving a winning presentation. I know Jeff well enough, growing up in Primerica with Jeff, that he knows how to give a winning presentation. But more importantly, luckily for you, he knows how to teach you how to give a winning presentation. And everybody must be singing on the same page. And here's the deal on this one, okay? If you were in personal sales or you weren't training anybody, then I'll let you do any kind of presentation you want, whatever suits your fancy, you just do your little deal, okay? But if you're training and duplicating others, trying to do that, you've got to have something that's duplicatable. You must do it over and over and over again, not for you, but it's for the person who's listening to you. And it must be simple and transferable, and it can't be complicated at all. But they must be able to relate, the client must be able to relate to it, but also the trainee must be able to relate to it, right? And so you really need to fight to make it simple, because if you are field training someone and they're watching you making a winning presentation, and if they leave that experience with you as their trainer and they say, whoo, that guy is good. You lost. You lose. Because you know what they're really saying is, I could never do that. That guy is so good. I don't think I could ever do that. No. If you're doing this right, he's going to leave going, heck, I could do that. That I could do what that guy does. Hey, how many more times do I have to go with you? I mean, I got this. Right? That's when you know you've given a winning presentation. You train people on a winning presentation. But let me just tell you what makes up a winning presentation. Not only its simplicity, but you got to be excited. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. You need to understand that 7% of what communicates to people out there is content. This is the truth now. So how many people were at church this morning? Okay? Content was absolutely unbelievable. Okay? It was. I mean, the content was awesome. But what you've got to pay attention to more than anything, I'm just telling you, no matter how great the content was, you're not going to remember but about 7% of it. And that dude was one of the best communicators you'll ever see in a church. Okay? And about 7% will be retained. What you remember from it is his tone of voice and his body language. In other words, 7% of what communicates is content, 38% is tone of voice, and 55% is body language. And what that carries with you is you leave here, and yes, you remember the story about Gideon's army, and you remember all his points, right? The jar, the light, the trumpet. But he's an excellent communicator. You know why? I think he repeated it at least 10 times. So I can remember it.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's all I could 7%. So it was perfect. But you do remember. Here's what you do remember. When you left this morning, what you do remember is how you felt. Man, I felt good, you know, and what communicated to you was his tone of voice, he was excited, he was passionate, right? And his body language. That's what you remember. That, you got to give that in a winning presentation too. You got to know it's not what you say, it's how you say it. You can have the greatest content in the world, but if you're just going through it just like this, you know, like a proper Brit does, right? Right?
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. There wasn't a whole heck of a lot of proper Brits in here this morning for worship. It was awesome. Right? Isn't it great? Don't tell me that Brits are too staid and can't get excited. Are you kidding me? That's wrong. I got video of the worship service. You know, I took it over to all of my Christian friends and say, dude, this is what's going on in the London area right now. Okay? So y'all do get excited. And so you got to be excited. You got to be passionate. You got to make sure. That's what they'll remember. They'll remember your tone of voice and your body language. Okay? And then you got to look at them in the eyes. Let me just tell you something. When I get with people one-on-one to try to recruit them, they're goners, man. I got them. If you give me eyeball, that's why I hate texting. I hate this technology, you know. I mean, I just hate even the texting or even on the phone. I want to get you eyeball to eyeball. I want you to look at me in my eyes. Because if you see what's in my eyes, you might not know exactly what I do, but dude, this guy's excited about something, and I'm going to do what he does. Right? You look them in the eyes. You repeat their name over and over and over again. And so you get great at asking that magic question too. You guys got that down, right? It's in pounds, but would you be willing to invest 6 to 8 hours a week to make an extra $1,000, $2,000 a month, right? It's a magic question. Get great at asking questions throughout. Don't just tell them, right? Ask them questions. Get them involved. Get them engaged. They know that you care, okay? And then I want you to become an introduction expert. An introduction expert. Now, what do I mean by that? See, have you heard me refer to this 1-2 punch when it comes to recruiting? Let me give you an example of what I mean by this. My analogy would have to do with basketball. Okay? Now, Rich, the pastor here, by the way, we found out in the green room, he's a big NBA, a big basketball fanatic. And he said, I got to admit to you, Randy, there's not a lot of basketball fans here in the UK. But he says, I grew up playing basketball here, you know, I just love basketball. And he's telling me all what's going on right now. He knows more about the NBA finals than I do, you know. And he knows all about the Golden State Warriors and all that. He's a big fan of theirs. But anybody, if you follow the history of the NBA in the United States, have you heard of a player by the name of Michael Jordan? Michael, they say, is the greatest basketball player that ever played the game. Now, there's a few people who probably get into massive arguments over that one. But let's just say, generally speaking, they're right. Well, when I grew up playing sports, I played American football, and then I wrestled, not the goofy TV wrestling, but the real wrestling, you know, one-on-one on the mat kind of thing, you know, that do the Olympic kind of thing. So I did that in the wintertime, and then I ran track to keep in shape for football and wrestling in the springtime. So I never played organized basketball. I just kind of messed around with it, you know, with my friends. And so, but I will tell you this, that I believe I could be on a championship basketball team if I had Michael Jordan on the team. But I would have to learn to play my role properly. And so what would happen, in order for this to be pulled off, you know, Mike was on the team here, he would come to me first and say, Randy, come here. So I seen you play a little bit of basketball. This is going to be a real challenge, buddy, okay? But you gotta really hear what I say. We can win every basketball game if you'll do what I tell you to do. I said, sure, Mr. Jordan, what would you like for me to do? Okay, here's the deal. The team's going to go practice over here for the next couple hours. I want you over here, and I want you to practice one thing, not 3, not 2, just one. I want you to do 1,000 times, I want you to practice lob passing
3 feet above the hoop. That's all I want you to do. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. Can I dribble? No. All I want you to do is just 1,000 shots. 3, I want lob pass just 3 feet above the hoop. Don't try to make the basket. Just lob pass 3 feet above it, okay? Yes, sir. And now, when the game starts, here's the deal. If I decide to put you in, when I decide to put you in, okay, we're only going to allow you to touch the ball. If anybody on the team passes to you, there's only one reason why they're going to give you that ball. Just one. And your job, as soon as you touch it, you don't pass it, you definitely don't try to shoot it, okay? And if I catch you dribbling that thing one time, you're out. No dribbling, no passing to another player, and definitely don't try to score. Well, then what would you like me to do? The one thing that I taught you to do, all I want you to do is get it and lob pass 3 feet above the hoop. That's it. Now, if I was obedient to him, and I did what he told me to do, then what my job is to lob pass 3 feet above the hoop. His job is to fly through the air with the greatest of ease, grab the ball, and slam dunk it. So if I do my job and he does his job, could we win every game? Yes. But that's what recruiting is. You see, you got all your brand new recruits. You go, well, they're brand new. I mean, do they have the ability to recruit? Oh, are you kidding me? They're at the height of their recruiting potential. I recruited 10 people on the first 30 days. I did not ever do that again, ever for the rest of my life. Now, I got real busy. But that's what I did. That's the height of your recruiting potential. You got a brand new market, haven't talked to anybody yet, you coach them up, and all they do is lob pass 3 feet above the hoop to their trainer. And their trainer slams it through the bucket. So you got to get great at being an introduction expert, the 1-2 punch. All you do is what I said I did, okay? That's all you do is say, listen, I'm in training with a financial service company here in the United Kingdom. They're expanding rapidly. They're training me how to open up a new office as one of their executive vice presidents. I don't know if it's for you, but I can get you an interview with the one who's doing the training right now. When can you meet with me? Or I'll give him your name, be expecting his call. And if you just get great at setting him up, lob pass, lob pass, lob pass, lob pass, and you set him up, you told his story, you told your story, his story, right? And you put him in front of him, boom, he'll slam dunk it for you. Your job is not to recruit people to you. Your job is to refer people to your trainer, okay? And then when you become a trainer, you teach your people how to do the same thing, and then you become the Michael Jordan. Become an introduction expert, and then master the art of investing and inviting. What does that mean? Master the art, and Jeff does this in such an incredible way. It's a lifestyle to him. It needs to become a way of life to you. You meet people. You introduce yourself to people. You ask them questions. You see that? You're investing in them. We have a formula, Jeff probably taught it to you too, that we've used forever in America. It's called the FORM method. Family, occupation, recreation, and, motivation. And that's a form of that you could use to ask questions. Family. So tell me a little bit about your family, Jeff. Really? How long have you been married? Wonderful. And where do you all live? Oh, that's great. And how long have you lived there? Oh, wonderful. Okay. So what do you do? Occupation. What do you do right now? How long have you been doing that? A long, long time. Really? I mean, is it something you see yourself doing, like forever? Are you kidding me? Right? No way. Oh, really? Okay. Well, if you had a shot at doing something else, what would it be? How about that? Okay. What do you guys do for fun? You love music, sports, really? So what gets you really excited? What really would motivate you? What motivates you? What would you really like to do that would really be? And so all that is that's just a little outline for you that teaches you how to what? Engage in people's lives. Remember, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Right? And so get great at investing and then inviting. You see so many people, you're out there meeting, shaking hands, meeting people, handing them your business cards, you don't invite them to the meeting. Man, they don't know what in the world you're doing. You spend no time. You're just trying to drag people to a meeting, drag people to a meeting, drag people to a meeting. And you have not had time to invest in them yet. You have not received the authority in their lives to do that at that point. You must first develop a relationship. You must first let them know that you care. You must first invest in them. And then when you invest in them, then and only then you get the authority to invite. Invest and invite. Make sense? Okay. And then, though, I want you to get great at mastering the 3-foot rule. What's that? That means anybody in 3 feet of you is what Jeff does so well. Man, get to know them. Meet and greet. I mean, always get their name and number. Now, here's what you don't do, okay? I love our people in the United States. I'm sure you guys don't do this here in the United Kingdom, but our people in the United States, they cannot wait to get their business cards. Y'all probably don't care about business cards here, right? Yes, you do, don't you? Yeah. So, gotta give them business cards. Well, why? Because I gotta hand them out. Well, why? So people will call me. Oh, really? And so, a lot of times, my guys' ideas of meeting and greeting, you know, the 3-foot rule and introduce stuff, getting a name and number from them, they don't get a name and number. They just want to hand out the business. Here, have a card. Here, have a card. Hey, yeah, well, hey, have a card. Here's my 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 card. Give me a call. 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 And I go back to the office and go, man, I did a lot of good work today. I can't wait. They're going to call me. Let me help you with something. Let me help you with this. I'm going to say something. They won't call you. They won't call you. They will do the same thing to your business card as you do to other people's business cards. They'll throw it in the trash can. Your job is not to hand out your name and number. Your job is to be a name and number collector. Okay? You invest, you show up you care, you ask questions, say, and here's how you do it too. You go, listen, I gotta go real quick. This is a good job, right? I gotta get going real quick, but listen, you have a business card. You have a name, text, whatever. I mean, what I can do is, if you want, I'll give you a holler, you know, in the next couple days, and see if it's, you know, something you and I want to get together and talk further about. Fair enough, great. Name and number. So your job is to collect name and numbers. Be a name and number collector, not a name and number distributor. The only people that really need your business cards are your clients and your recruits, because they're the ones who are going to need to call you, right? Everybody else, this is a go after business, not wait for people to come to you. All right. Then you understand that recruiting is a one-on-one business. It really is one-on-one. As a matter of fact, Art Williams told me, he said, Randy, it takes hours to get a new recruit. Hours. You're going, well, that's not, I don't think so. It's like just one presentation, right? No. Or I can just get to the meeting, that's it, right? No. You've got to spend a long time doing this. It's a process, but it's a glorious process. It works if you do it the right way. And so, first of all, your job is to spend good one-on-one time with them first. Then, based on that time, then you invite them to attend a meeting held in your office so you can meet some of the vice presidents of the office, some of our other leaders, and you can also, learn more about our business. Now listen, if you spend good one-on-one time before the meeting will be the most effective time you'll ever spend, because they've been educated and prepared for it. It'll reinforce what you said. It will actually give you more credibility, and it'll be a time that they make the decision to take action. And so that environment, you can't get that environment anywhere else. You can't get that kind of credibility anywhere else in a meeting. So you got to get there, but you spend good one-on-one time first, and then you spend good one-on-one time afterwards. And that one-on-one time afterwards, in my opinion, is the most critical time ever, because that's when you get them set up and get their plan in place for them before they talk to anybody. That's when you get their market list. You're excited. They're excited about doing that because you're going to teach them how to build a business so they can be a executive VP with you too. And I just tell them, I say, listen, if we do this right, see this top 25 list right here? We qualify this list. This is the heart of our market. And if we do this right, Jim, if I told you that these 25 names done correctly, referred correctly, worked correctly, could build a business for you that will last a lifetime, how much time would you put into that list? Because, man, that's it. And so that good one-on-one time after the meeting is so critical to get them off to a fast start. Now, let's talk about your goals. Because really, I mean, goal setting. When Jeff told me about this, he goes, I said, Jeff doesn't really know how I feel about goal setting. Goal setting is important. But everybody can do it. Everybody can set a goal. Our problem is not being goal setters. Our problem is being goal hitters. And then if you're not hitting your goals, you're not serious and setting them. And so, yes, you guys, I'm a big believer in goal setting. My brain is setting goals 24/7. It's all I think about all the time. I'm writing them down on paper. I'm giving this guy. I got to do this guy, this. I'm calling him up all the time. Where do you think we can do that? We're setting goals all the time. So I bet you're pretty good at setting goals. But I bet we're all pretty lousy at hitting the goals we set. How about that? Am I fair? Is that fair? So what we want to do great is we want to be not only goal setters, but goal hitters. Man, if you can hit them, or even if you come close to them, and you get used to that process, you get better and better and better at it. Okay, so I led off my first session with some of our senior VPs, and my challenge them is this. I want you, and leaving this room, I want you to have great big dreams, great big goals, great big visions. I want that. So I want you to dream big. Listen to me. But I want you to act small. Act small. So what you need to do, the key to being a goal hitter, is set doable goals. They need to be big. They need to stretch you. They need to get you out of your comfort zone, okay? And only you know what those are. But you set doable goals and they got to stretch you. But then the strategy needs to, you need to understand they need to be small, daily steps done on a consistent basis. That's where y'all mess up. Is we're great at these big, grandiose dreams, and we go home and watch television all day. But we're thinking about our goals. We're reading the next book on goal setting. And I understand goals are critical. You can't do life without them. If life was a game, can you imagine playing basketball? Or can you imagine playing football? Real football, not American football, soccer, right? And they're playing on this game, they get ready, and there's no goal. And then they run on the other end, they're kicking it right, and there's no goal. What would the game look like? They'd be playing around on the pitch all day long. But there would be no point to the game because there's no goal to shoot for. Same thing in basketball. Can you imagine a basketball game? They dribble around, and one day, oh. There's no goal. What are we supposed to do? I don't know. I guess we just dribble around all day. We just dribble around. No goals. That's how we live our lives. So goals are absolutely mandatory. But how do you hit them, Reedy? How do you hit them? You got to think big, act small. You got to break it down to those small, little, daily steps. That's the discipline you got to take. It's that you got to do it every single day on a consistent basis. You break it down to small goals, to small things to do, then you can hit your big dreams. Okay. But if you're a big goal setter and you go home and you just mess around and you continue to live the same way you lived before, you'll never hit them, and you'll be frustrated. So the discipline it takes is the little stuff. It's in the little stuff. But if you break it down in little steps, it doesn't seem that hard. And that's why you got to do it. That's how you got to do it. Okay? Now, let's just talk about then understanding that you got to embrace the numbers of business. You got to embrace it now. The numbers, Jeff, I don't know. You probably taught this. I don't know if they're the same here in the United States. I'm in the United Kingdom, in the United States. In our business, we go by the science of our numbers is 8531. What does that mean? That means you have to have 8 interviews, 8 appointments. You have 5. We do 5 F&As or 5 game. You call it financial game plans, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Is that what you call them?
Yep.
Right? And out of that, you'll develop 3 clients and you'll recruit 1 person. Okay? And so typically what our people will do is they're setting their goals. Okay? Here's the deal now. Here's what you got to understand. They'll set their goals, and a good manager will always say, okay, what's your recruiting goal? What's your team recruiting goal this month? We're going out for 10 recruits. 10 recruits. So you got to break that down, right? And you break that down a little bit, and you go, let's see now, the numbers of the business are 8531. What does that mean? That means for every 8 appointments, I'm going to recruit 1 person. Okay, so you got a team goal of 10 recruits. Is that right? So then as a leader, you got to go, whoa, okay, real quick, time out. We can do this. We absolutely could do this. You know why? Because we got to commit not to the 10 recruits. We got to commit to the what? To the 80 appointments. You commit to the 80 appointments. And so you just break that down for the month, right? And so you break that down for the month. Let's just say that you're going to, work 5 solid days in a week, 4 weeks in a month. So that's how many days? How many days? 4 times 5. 20. Man, it works here too, right? I mean, 20 here, right? Okay, good.
So slow.
It's tough without a calculator, isn't it? And, GPS is the same thing. I can't drive around anymore without GPS. I used to drive all over the place, but now I just can't even drive anywhere without it. It's crazy. Okay? Remember how we used to get out of the car and open up the garage door? Okay. Remember how we used to get up and turn the teeth? Yeah. Look what's happening to us. So anyway, so that means you got to break that down. And so if you got 20 days, right, and you got 80 interviews that need to happen in 20 days, 20 into 80 goes how many times? 4. That means you got to commit to at least having team. If you're doing this personally, you better commit to it personally. But if you got a team goal of 10, then you know your team better be going on a minimum of 4 interviews a day, right? And if you're doing that, that's the dream big, work small. Okay, let's break it down again. Okay, let's see. If you're full-time or if you're managing your team, you got to make sure that in the morning before lunch, that team we have at least 2 interviews going on somewhere. And after lunch, we got another 2 interviews. Or let's just say you have 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and 2 after dinner at night, right, when they're at home. That's 4 a day. And if you do that, embrace numbers of the business, that means you got a shot at 10 recruits. But you see, here's what we think. And this is how our brain works. And I get it, because I used to do the same thing. We go, our goal is 10 recruits. And as your brain goes, and you're thinking, that means we're going to talk to 10 people, they're going to come and work for us, and we're going to hit a goal. Right? That's what you're really saying. Then you go out and you talk to 10 people, right? And 1 or 2 say yes, and you didn't hit your goals, and you're depressed, and all of a sudden you think that Genistar doesn't work. And you go, no, you didn't work. You didn't do it. You had a big dream, but you didn't act small. Dream big, act small. Okay? And you act small on a consistent basis. Let me give you another sports analogy. Baseball. You guys watch some baseball? Major League Baseball? At all? I mean, you've seen it sometimes?
Yeah.
But you know the game, right? Everything we did, we just took what y'all been doing and just, twisted it up a little bit, right? You started rugby, we did football. You started cricket, we did baseball. We just copied everything. We didn't invent anything. But if you study it, they say in sports that the hardest thing to do in sports is to hit a baseball. You go, no. I know a lot of things harder. Have you ever played golf? Yeah, I play golf. Play golf every now and then. Well, that's hard. No. You understand? I can hit a golf ball every time I swing. Where the ball goes now, I have no idea. But I can hit it every time. Okay? You try getting up to bat with a baseball coming at you 90 to 100 miles an hour, and you try to hit that one. Okay? And so that's why if you're the best, you're greatest in the world at it, you'll be playing Major League Baseball. And if you're one of the best Major League Baseball players in the world, if you bat .333 for the year, that means mathematically for every 3 times at bat, you get a hit. Now some people who are negative with that would mean for every 3 times at bat, you fail 2 out of 3 times. But if you fail 2 out of 3 times in Major League Baseball, you'll be elected to the Hall of Fame, and they'll pay you probably about $20 million a year if you fail 2 out of 3 times. Now, how do they do that? I mean, how do they have the courage? How do they have the stamina? How do they have the persistence? How do they maintain a positive attitude to go through those kind of numbers? Because here's how the numbers of the business work. You see, here's what you can't do. You can't go and say, I heard Randy, he said that it's 8531. And so if I have 8 interviews this week, I can recruit 1 person a week, right?
Yep.
But here's the crazy thing. That's not how it really works. You got to be all jacked up, got broken down every day and everything else, right? Got it all jacked up, now I'm ready to go, and you're telling me it's not going to work. No, it works, but it doesn't work the way you think it does. It never works. Life never works linearly like that. It never works mathematically like that. It's never 8531. Just ask a Major League Baseball player. If he wants to get paid $10 million a year, he's got those guys get up there to bat. And here's what they think. Every time they get up to bat, in their brain, they know the numbers of baseball. They know that the majority of the time they get up to bat, they're going to make an out. They also know the majority of the time they swing that bat, based on the math, based on the truth, the vast majority of the time they're going to strike out. They're not going to hit the ball. Do they know that? They do. They know the facts. But in their brain, they get up there and they are absolutely convinced that no matter what happened that pitch before, no matter if it went across that plate and they swung and missed, they know this time, I'm going to hit that ball. And they are, this time, when they're ready to swing that ball, they, in their minds, they swing that bat for only one reason, and only one reason alone. They know that when they swing the bat, they are convinced in their heart and mind that they're going to hit that baseball. They believe it. And so they go for it. Boom! And they miss it. Okay? Okay. So off. They're up there again. Okay, buddy, come on. This time, you're mine. You're mine. Come on. Put it right here. You're mine, right? And this time, they are convinced, no matter what, that this time is going to be their time. And they swing again, they miss. This is where the pros, this is why they're pros, is because they get up there again. And they go, okay, 2 misses. That means this time is going to happen. Right? It's going to happen this time. And if you put it right across the plate this time, and boom, it happens, okay? And you go, wow, that's just amazing. Let me tell you something. He's amazing because he got up that plate, and he believed every single time, regardless of the circumstance, regardless of the past, that he's going to hit that baseball. But deep down inside, at the end of the season, it never is for every 3 times at bat you get a hit. It never was like that. You see, it's him having this big goal, but thinking small every time that he swings that bat, he's going to hit that baseball. And so one game he might go 0 for 4. And he steps up to the next game, the next bat, he believes it's going to change that. It's all going to be different. Then he's 2 for 4 the next game. Then he's 1 for 3. Then he's 0 for 4. Then he's 0 for 3. Then he's 2 for 2. Then he's 3 for 3. One day he's 4 for 4. It may happen once or twice in the season. He gets written up in all the newspapers. He gets interviewed in all the television stations, right? Like he's some hero. All he did is he believed in the numbers. And he believed if he was going to swing the bat, the majority of the time, that when all the dust settles, for every 3 times at bat, he got a hit. Even though the game before he went 0 for 4. The next game he goes 4 for 4. So for you got to know and believe the numbers work. They work. But you got to work them. You got to work them. You got to work the numbers. And so this week, you might have 5 interviews and only 2 show up and none of them follow you. Well, see, it doesn't work. Is that what the baseball player thinks? No. He goes, I know if I do some more interviews, I'm going to hit somebody. I'm going to get somebody, right? And so you teed up next week too. And you might go 8 interviews, 7 people show up, you do F&As for, financial game plans for, right? Maybe 2 of them become a client, maybe none of them go to work with you. And you go, that's okay. My next week I got another game, and all of a sudden 8 people show up, 8 people do F&As, 8 people become clients, and 5 people show up, and you recruit 4 of them. And they'll think that you are a genius. You're the greatest leader Genistar's ever seen. And you go, no. I just work the numbers. I know the numbers, and I work them, and if I work them long enough, hard enough, I know that they'll work for me. So those are your numbers, and those are your challenges. That's your challenge. Now, you need to be able to move into action. And remember what we started with, the meaning of hope? Hope. Hope. This knowing hope. Listen, Jeff Lex, your EVPs, they represent hope to you. Hopefully, I'm representing hope to you because what I'm speaking to you today is truth. I'm giving you truth. Now, whether you accept it or not does not make it untruthful. You got to know that we're giving you truth. So the definition is hope that is a catalyst for your activity. The definition of that is evidence that's based on a what? Truth. And so that's the truth. And in the evidence, you're surrounded by it. And now it's up to you to decide what you're going to do with it. So what helps me with that? What helps me? Most people want to be in business for themselves. I'm just telling you, most people that desire to be their own boss really hate accountability. They really do. Don't tell. I was so lucky Mike Tuttle was not one of those guys. Okay, give me your numbers. Okay, now give me your numbers every day. Okay, good. Now what did you do? You didn't do it. About a week after I would have gone, Okay? Because I don't like that kind of domineering leadership. I want to be in business for myself, okay? That means I don't need some boss. I want an encourager. I want someone who inspires me and encourages me. But I resist accountability. But this is my problem. But I need to be accountable. So what holds me accountable? What is the catalyst to me that holds me accountable to my goals? And for me as a believer, there's two scriptures I just want to leave you with, because this are kind of life scriptures that I use in my life, in my business life, that helps me. First of all, the first one, all 3 of these are from Paul, by the way. He's kind of my favorite guy. He wrote most of the New Testament, so it's hard not to like him, right? But, he spent most of his life after he met Christ, just writing letters to a bunch of Christians like him to encourage them and instruct them, right? And that's what he did. And that's what the inspired New Testament's all about, is through that inspiration writing of Paul. And he writes another group. One was in Rome, this one's in Galatia. And he tells these Christians in Galatia, he says, let us not become weary in doing good. Why? Because at the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we don't give up. You want me to read that one more time? Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. See, that's the truth. The truth is that if you determine not to quit, you're not going to give up. You will reap a harvest, because you're dealing in an arena right here called Genistar that will reward you, that will cause you to prosper in all areas of your life if you don't give up. Why will that happen? Because you're doing a great work. You're doing something good for this country. And so you can't get weary. You can't burn out in doing something that's good, according to Paul. And so that motivates me, that inspires me, that keeps me going, that helps me hit my goals. But then the last one that I live and breathe by is when he writes this group in Colossae, and he says, listen, people, whatever you do, I want you to work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not men. Let me just say that one more time. It's Colossians 3:23. And he says, whatever you do, whatever. What does that mean? Whatever. That means whatever. Whatever you do. If you're a father, if you're a mother, if you're a business leader, if you're a friend, if you're a community leader, whatever you are, if you're a neighbor, if you're a Genistar EVP, whatever you do, he says to work at it with what? All your heart. Why? Because you're working for the one who made you, not for men and women approval. You're not working for their approval. You're not working to get called up on stage right here. Your ultimate accountability is you need to work to glorify the one who made you. And if you knew that he was sitting next to you during your day, what would your day look like? So, that's what I live by. And I just ask the Lord every day, right? It's like this, Lord, I want to dedicate this day to you, for the people I meet, for the people I call, for the people that you put me in touch with. I pray over my day. And I just want to follow you, and I want to work for your approval. If we did that, first of all, as Christians, but even if you're not a Christian, if you're not a follower of Christ, it really doesn't matter. These are principles that work no matter what. Isn't that great?
Yes.
I'm just telling you, you don't even have to believe the Bible. I think you should, but you don't have to believe the Bible. Just kind of read it and do what it says. You don't have to believe it's written by the Lord, even though I believe it is. It's inspired. But just do what it says. It's really pretty good stuff in there. And it'll change your life. Listen, you've changed my life. I love being with you. I really did. You guys. I'm going to go to Glenn Williams, who's the chairman of Primerica. And I'm going to tell him, like, Glenn, he knew I was here, by the way. And I'm going to say, I visited those folks in the UK. I visited Genistar. I mean, they got the heart of A. Williams. They got the heart of Primerica. And because of that,